Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
This is Paris, and this is Chris.
Hi, everybody.
This time, we read an interesting hunting novel.
You afraid of monsters, Paris? Do you like monsters?
I mean, I think they can be kind of cool sometimes. I'm not really afraid of them, though.
What's the coolest monster you know?
Coolest monster?
What's the coolest monster?
Probably like all the eldritch horror shit that Lovecraft created because it's so incomprehensible and terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What about like a werewolf with sunglasses, though?
No, that's just not.
I mean, that's cool. Probably one of the coolest monsters to me. You know, sea monsters, they have to like stay in the ocean all the time, so there's like probably I don't know what's cool in the ocean to do.
Yeah.
So I don't have a really good concept of that, but like out of all the land monsters, I feel like werewolf is pretty good. Because, like, he's based in the nightlife, right? You know, he's always out at night, like, at the full moon or something, so he's already cool for that reason.
Right.
And plus, it's like, you know, dogs are also pretty cool. So, like, those two things right there, like, already overshadow, like, say, a vampire who's, like, also out at night, but he's also kind of weird and creepy. That's not very cool. Whereas dogs, always cool all the time.
Yeah, but you can, like, reason with a vampire. Werewolves will just eat you.
I'm not talking about reasoning. I'm just pure cool factor.
So if a werewolf had sunglasses on, you'd be really into it.
I'm struggling to like find another monster that I would think of as like more cool or perhaps more badass or even something like that.
All right, well,
maybe like a vampire with a gun, which is almost a thing that happens in this book.
Yeah, I was gonna say this book has both of those things, vampires and werewolves.
Yep, it has so many other things, too.
It has a lot of guns. Boy, does it have a lot of guns.
Oh, so many guns and so many bullets.
Yeah.
What's your estimate of the number of bullets fired?
Oh God.
In Monster Hunter International by Larry Correia, I believe?
Correia. It's a Portuguese last name.
Correia. All right, well...
Sorry, I grew up around a bunch of Portuguese people, which is why Lord Machado is funny to me. But anyway.
Okay, well, yeah. So that's what we read this month almost, because this was like a really, really thick, buff book.
Yeah, this was a 713. I'm just checking. 713 page book. And unlike a lot of its shitty predecessors, this book had decent font size and spacing and printing, so like, you know, it's a legitimate 700-page book.
Standard mass market paperback look. Like, I don't think since like Wizard's First Rule do we have something of this beefiness to it.
Yeah, definitely not. So it took a while for us to read it. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I read it. I don't know. I guess if you lump together all of my reading sittings, it didn't take that long, but I just had trouble getting to it.
It was mostly the shipping time that killed me because it took like 2 weeks to get here. I think maybe because I accidentally ordered it from like overseas, like an international version of it.
Wait, dude.
Because the title is international, but like that was like also in parentheses off to the side, so maybe I confused.
No,
exactly.
I mean, no way, because inside the front cover there's a stamp that says Chapter 2, Ingalls Shopping Center, Highway 64, Cashiers, North Carolina.
Oh, all right. Well, then it's just somewhere in North Carolina is very slow.
Unless it started there and then went overseas and then came back.
It is Monster Hunter International. Paris.
Yeah. So the basic plot of this book is that it's present day. You know, this book was written in 2000 something. I don't know, 2000. 2009.
Yeah.
So it's present day. Monsters are real, but the general public isn't supposed to know about them. So there's
they're not supposed to, but
we'll talk about the problem with that in a minute. So the Monster Control Bureau is like the Men in Black of the government. So they're the wing.
The Men in Black of this book, you could say.
Yeah.
The Men in Black were a government organization, I believe, in those movies. In the stunning trilogy starring Will Smith.
Yes. So they're the Men in Black, but instead of aliens, it's just like normal monsters, sort of. And
Earthbound monsters, or like otherwise, like, your werewolves, your vampires, your gargoyles, things like that.
Your swamp monsters,
all these things.
So then but like weirdly, I don't know. I in the book I was wondering this. I was like, well, if there's a government arm that deals with this stuff, then why is there a Monster Hunters International, who is the private organization that does kind of the same stuff? But
because you gotta cut through that red tape. That government's just too slow, man.
Yeah, it's weird because in the book, the protagonist simultaneously talks about how like the Monster Control Bureau is like both inefficient, but also like their men are better trained. It's really weird. But you don't actually see a lot of the MCB in the book. They kind of only pop in and out, and then they're in one of the final sequences. But Monster Hunter International, I can't talk, is the main focus of the book. And, it's this private organization that deals with
paramilitary group that specializes in hunting down monsters.
Right. And so they're not employed by the government. They're a private organization. But, Chris, how do they survive financially?
Well, you see, the majority of the payouts are the Perpetual Unearthly Forces Fund, established by Teddy Roosevelt as part of the New Deal, I guess.
Think it was paranormal. Is it perpetual or paranormal?
I forget exactly, but it's abbreviated as Puff money all the time, PUFF. And that's basically like the bounty you can collect on demons or monsters that you hunt down and kill for a bounty. And different monsters have different levels of payout depending on how tough they are and all sorts of. And like, it's not really superly done into except like, the stronger the monster is.
You're right. It's Perpetual Unearthly Forces Fund. Yeah.
I can't believe I remembered that.
Yeah, I thought it was paranormal, but anyway.
But that's basically the essence of it, and they say that's where they get most of their money. So the government sucks and is bad, and it's ripping off the taxpayers with its inefficient use of their money. But we need your money, government. Please give us money.
Yeah. So the main character is Owen Zastava Pitt. He is a libertarian.
Of course.
Yeah.
Naturally.
And he's so he has quite the pedigree. Let me just lay this stuff down for you. So
just give me a quick rundown of Pitt's resume here before the book even starts. So he's
an accountant,
okay,
and he was such a good accountant that he passed the CPA exam first time. Right. He is an expert in 2 conveniently undisclosed martial arts. So he's a black belt in just 2 martial arts. Shrug, whatever.
Something. In punches and kicks. That's what he's an expert in, punching and kicking.
So there's that. He speaks 5 languages because he's some kind of quote-unquote mutt. He talks about how he has all these ethnicities. Oh my God, what is wrong with me today? Ethnicities in his, in his background, but they never really specify. So you really only find out that he is perhaps Serbian or Croatian because of the Zastava in his name.
Look, everyone knows that when you're born with a certain bloodline in you, that you automatically know that language right away. So
and it's weird because he only makes reference to, like, I think one set of his grandparents, I think the Serbo-Croatian side, talking in another language. So it's like, well, where did you learn the other 4 languages? And they don't specify ever what the other 4 languages aside from English are. So that's weird.
I'm pretty sure he even mispronounces like a French word or an Italian word later on. I remember at some point him like using a foreign word and it's spelled out like phonetically. I forget exactly what
it
was.
parlay this motherfucker? Was it that?
Yeah, parlay this motherfucker. That's a line that happens.
Yep. So
there's some fucking B movie-ness to this, and he, like, the author himself says, like, I really love B horror movies and stuff like that. So there's like a little bit of that like, and I kind of couldn't decide whether I was down with the parlez-vous this motherfucker line at first.
Okay, so, alright, so here we go. So he's, accountant, fucking sick-ass accountant, sick-ass martial artist. He's a fucking
buff fighting accountant. That's my new firm. If you need your checkbooks balanced and some stuff moved out of your house, boy, have we got you covered.
So, okay, and he also speaks, 5 languages. And then, oh, wait, there's more. He, so to get through college... like all of us, he took a job doing underground pit fighting because, that's just what I did. I mean, it's either Starbucks or underground fighting, right? So
you got to
like those are your choices.
Man, you got to hit the books in the morning and hit a face at night if you want to get through.
Yeah, and also
he
fucking went to school and like grew up in Texas, so like I don't even know where there's a market for that kind of thing in Texas. I would understand it more if it was a big city, but
I mean, Texas has plenty of big cities. Like you got Dallas, you got Austin, you got Houston.
Oh yeah, I think it's supposed to be Dallas. Anyway,
Dallas is totally a big city.
I don't know. Anyway, it's a pretty absurd premise, and he stopped fighting because he almost killed someone once, and it haunts him. And it's like, oh, all right, whatever. What else is amazing? There's some other amazing factors.
What about his, like, physical, like, just, like, I don't think you went into, like, his shoe size or his bench press ability.
Right, so he tries to make the character seem, like, really physically imposing. So he's 6'5", 300 pounds, has a size 15 shoe, a 4XL shirt, and he's, like, a 63 or 64-inch chest. And... I mean, all I can help but think is, like, this guy is a fucking Rob Liefeld drawing come to life. Like, he probably doesn't even have feet,
Yeah, he's literally that Captain America cover that everyone has seen when you Google Rob Liefeld, where, like, the chest is somehow bigger than, like, twice his head or something like that.
Yeah, and so because I was sitting here and I was like, wow, 63 or 64, I just couldn't remember exactly the number, and it would take too much digging for me to check, but it was 63 or 64-inch chest, and I'm like...
That's a pretty good set of tits, dude.
Because that's the thing, I'm thinking about, like, my bra size, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking ridiculous, so... Yeah. I was complaining to Paul about it, and Paul goes, wait a second, where's the tape measure? And, like, runs out of the room and comes back with the tape measure and starts pulling it out until it gets to 64. And then we took, like, an XLR or some kind of cable, to get the measurement. And then he put it around himself, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized I could also fit into that, and there was still room. So, Paul's a pretty sizable dude. He's 6 feet and... to 180, 200 pounds or something. So he's, and he's actually a martial artist. So it's like, if me and him can fit in, I'm not skinny. So it's like, if he and I can fit in this circle and there's room to spare, no human looks like that. I mean, sure, maybe again, some powerlifters do, but this guy...
Yeah, you have to be, like, seriously doing bodybuilding, and focusing on your diet and shit all the time to get anywhere near that. And this dude has described himself as, like, being kind of fat and out of shape at the beginning of the book. Now, if you've been, like, really fit for quite a while, obviously that's going to retain even if you, like, lose your fucking diet that you've been on for a while. But still...
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he talks about how he lifts a little bit, and the author tries to... make a point to make him seem really cool by saying, oh yeah, he can bench 400 pounds. But I consulted an expert on this. So my friend Ashley Svenby, she is a power lifter out of Las Vegas, and
400 pounds is a fucking lot, dude. So, like, you have to be, like, training regularly to get near that shit for a bench.
Okay, but her expert opinion is that with his physical description, so 300 pounds, 6'5", 400 pounds is actually a really shitty bench. So,
I mean, if he has been, like, lifting for quite a while, like, yeah, someone of that size could get to there pretty quickly, especially if he has a 63-inch fucking chest.
Yeah, she was saying that, like, there's no fucking way. She's like, that is a really shitty bench for somebody of that physical description, and she was like, that that's stupid. Like, he's really
But it's
weak.
already a ludicrous physical description of, like, a
Right.
human being that's so fucking huge that, like...
Yeah, but it's just funny that he's trying to make him sound impressive, but clearly didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, he just threw in a bunch of, like, big-sounding numbers...
Yeah.
At his description to create this sort of... I mean, you did say he probably doesn't have feet before, but he has a size 15 shoe, apparently, so, like...
Yeah, I mean, and I really only know, like, one person who's... my friend Chris. He's, like, really... Obviously not you, Chris, but, he's really tall, and he has to have his shoes, like, special ordered most of the time, because I think he's a size 14. So what the fuck does this guy do? Like, I mean, it's just...
Really specialty stores, man. Like, again, he's probably part of some kind of buff accountants firm. Buff Accountants Incorporated.
Buff Accountants. Yeah, so this guy... Okay, and then that's just,
or
like...
Huge Accounts Incorporated.
This is just the regular guy stuff that he's, like, awesome at and cool and, like, really cool with or whatever. Then
well, later in the book, he's also, like, the best marksman in the fucking world.
Yeah, he's...
Like,
and he's, like, the chosen one, too, in the story, as...
Of course.
Always. He's the chosen one.
With the 63-inch chest, I mean, like...
Right, yeah, who's gonna top that?
The chosen pecs that, you know...
So, yeah. So, he develops, like, telepathy, clairvoyance, astral projection, and chronokinesis, which is, like, when he is able to reverse time just by thinking about it with this weird artifact near him.
Yeah, like, he can just use an all-powerful object, just, like, it's never really explained. What,
no.
Like, because he's the chosen special guy that has everything going for him constantly.
Yeah. So he's perfect he's, like, amazing as a regular human, both mentally and physically. And he also ends up getting all these supernatural abilities, and it's just like, holy fuck, dude! Like, really? Could you, like, God, making characters that perfect is just not fun to read.
It's boring.
And the funny thing is that the author, Mr. Correia, he actually has this website. I guess his books have kind of a following, although he hasn't updated his website in 2 years, so I don't know if maybe his shit has, like, lost steam now, but he wrote a post in 2010 about Owen's character and about how people have accused him of creating a Mary Sue in Owen. And it's like sort of a Mary Sue in that the author and Owen have a lot in common, but obviously the main character, you know, Owen he is the perfected version of Larry Correia. And Larry he's so offended by the fact that people have said this. He wrote a blog post about it, and it's
as you do.
It's funny because he's like, oh, our backgrounds are nothing alike. Our relationships with family are nothing alike.
I never fought in Texan fighting pits.
Yeah.
For college.
We didn't grow up the same way. He's more libertarian than I am. We're not the same religion or ethnicity. Blah blah blah. And it's like, well, he has a shit ton of similarities to the creator, and it's pretty obvious that, you know, for example, the author is also an accountant. He's also a gun expert and an expert marksman. He's also describes himself as, like, a geeky fat guy who's super strong inexplicably.
I doubt he's the expert marksman level that we get out of Pitt in this book, where, like, he's just nailing shots that impress veterans of Monster Hunter International, like, from the start.
Yeah, and, like, they also have the same thing where they both almost killed someone and got freaked out by it. Like,
except I don't think Larry ever goes into what that is, so
no,
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Maybe he, like, accidentally left the safety off a gun at a shooting range and, like,
no, he talks about how he fought off a youth gang in high school because he's just so strong, and then, I don't know,
What was he doing around the high school, though?
Because he was in high school at the time.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought it was just Larry going out there.
No. And it's just, like, the style of his autobiography reads exactly like all the main characters text about himself in the book. And
hey, kids, you need some accounting done? Stop hitting me.
Yeah, and it's weird because he addresses that in the blog post, and he's like, come on, I was just trying to write in first person, and, you know, that's how you do it. You write what you know. And I'm so tired of hearing shitty writers say that. Oh, you just write what you know. It's like, shut the fuck up. Ugh, it's so boring.
On one level, like, yeah, that by write what you know, it doesn't literally mean put your exact life down onto paper. It just means use your lived experiences as a guide. And
that's the problem, is that too many people don't do that. He also went to Alabama to proselytize as a Mormon, although the main character isn't Mormon. Mormonism and Alabama are, like, two backdrop pieces that occur frequently in the novel. and both of the characters couldn't join the military because of flat feet and allergies and asthma. I don't remember if Owen had asthma, because I feel like if he did, there's no way he would have survived it as like a member of the Monster Hunter team. I think it was just the flat feet and allergies.
It couldn't have been the asthma, because if you have breathing problems, most of the physical feats undertaken in this book would be impossible.
Yeah.
And at a certain level, like high level weightlifting gets like really, really tough. You can do it with asthma, it's totally doable, but it gets very, very difficult.
So I mean, I don't think so. The asthma might not be the same, but they both couldn't join the military because of flat feet and allergies or something. And I don't know, like, it's funny, in his blog post where he's railing against people accusing him of having a Mary Sue, he says that, hang on, I gotta find this paragraph. It's so good, because he's like,
we're well into this episode. We haven't really begun talking about what the fuck happens in this goddamn
It's fine. We'll get there. I just think we really need to talk about the characters so people understand. Okay, so this is an excerpt from the article where he is defending himself against the Mary Sue accusations. Quote, "Okay, so Owen has a lot of similarities to his creator. Does he fit the rest of the Mary Sue, quote-unquote, rules? Is he extra perfect? No, not even close. He makes bad decisions. He's got a stupid temper. His primary motivation to not murder somebody is based on the fact that it's too hot to dig a hole. Do I treat him extra good? What, you mean when he gets torn to bits in the first chapter, or when he gets his ass handed to him throughout the book? The only thing he gets to be average on is shooting and physical endurance. Shooting, he's about a GM, which, considering his background, isn't even a stretch. And the toughness is a requirement to write a giant book filled with violence and have the first-person narrator actually make it all the way to the end." And I just thought that was funny, because he does actually make the main character extra perfect. And it's weird that he doesn't acknowledge that.
He's totally awesome at shooting. Like, he's not average at all.
Yeah, I know. And he's not like slightly above average. And then
he like outclasses the entirety of Monster Hunter International, like in one of his first shooting tests. And the instructors are super impressed with like his like he like breaks records and shit.
Yeah. And honestly, they do make him extra perfect, and he does get treated extra good, as he says, because sure, he gets beat up in fights, but he always wins, always survives, and nobody that he cares about ever dies or gets seriously injured. So,
and his injuries don't really slow him down for at all ever, like, and maybe for like a couple of minutes.
Right, and he gets treated extra good because he conveniently gets this, like, he survives a werewolf attack and gets offered this job with MHI and gets tons of money, and like wait there's one more thing I have to read, an excerpt from this thing. So he says, "So how did my Marty Stew do?" It's the male version of Mary Sue. "In the last year, 2 bestseller lists, 4 printings, 2 books coming out shortly, deals for 4 more, including being invited to do a collaboration with one of the top writers in science fiction, for a total of 3 different series sold. All that, and if I really want to piss people off, Julie Shackelford is based on my wife, and she really does look like Baroness from G.I. Joe. Yes, it is good to be me." Holy shit, dude, are you full of your fucking self?
Dude, I got my waifu IRL, right? All of your arguments are invalid, okay?
Yep. I was just like, holy fuck, I need to read
Sparkle
that.
Doesn't even exist, homie. Neither does Hatsune Miku, but Baroness from G.I. Joe is a real living lady.
She's my wife. Okay, bro, like...
I didn't read that part.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, shit.
That was in the blog post. That's...
It is good to be me.
Yeah, this guy, he's just... God, he's just fucking insufferable.
He watched a cartoon when he was a kid, and he was like, "I'm gonna marry that lady," and like that's the only kind of lady he ever went for. Is like, he goes on a Tinder date with someone, and like, "Oh, in your picture, you're a brunette. What the heck? I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. This can't work."
Remember, she has dark black hair. Light black will not suffice.
Okay, All right, so I guess let's start getting into the actual things that happen in this lengthy story.
Yeah, if you want to run through the basic plot points, go right ahead.
Right, so
I've done enough talking.
Over in the offices of Buff Accountants Incorporated. Owen is having a late night, and his boss calls him into the office because he's like, Owen, you haven't been balancing these accounts, you haven't been keeping up on your protein shakes every day, so we're gonna. I forget exactly. Basically, his boss has turned into a werewolf.
Yeah, well, his boss invites him into the office to kill him and eat him. That's why.
Yeah, so, Owen's immediately my boss is such a dick all the time. I forget if he lays out any good reasons besides, I mean, like, everything in this book reads like a cliche that I've read before already, down to, like, dialogue, characters that exist. Anyway, I'll keep going.
Yeah, that's why his refutation of Marty Stew isn't good enough, because guess what? It's boring and it's been done before.
Anyway, his boss starts turning into a werewolf, and they get into, like, a fist fight where, like, or actually, no, Owen pulls a gun by saying, like, oh, I didn't like that no weapons in the office rule anyway, and, like, he has his pistol on him every day he goes to work in case there's an accounting emergency of some kind.
Yeah, he's
that
always
requires bullets.
Yeah, he's always carrying, and he has all kinds of permits to have guns on him. I guess Texas is pretty gun friendly, so that makes sense.
It is, but, like, do you really need it at your accounting office? Like, who knows? Anyway,
yes, Chris. Who knows what will happen to and from the accounting office? Bandits, Chris.
What if your boss turns into a werewolf? Then
yeah,
you'll
then
see.
what?
Then I was right.
Yep.
Anyway, so he shoots the werewolf boss a couple of times. It doesn't work because, of course, they're not silver bullets, which matters. And so then the way he takes the werewolf down, who isn't slowed by bullets, is by snapping the werewolf's neck with his bare hands and shoving him out of an office window, which seems like a major feat of strength to me for someone who hasn't been working out that much lately.
Yeah, he said he still works out a little bit in his spare time, but he was talking about how he had, like, a banana and Cheetos for lunch, and, like, how...
I mean, it's a giant werewolf with, like, probably huge corded muscles, and apparently just doing the old Steven Seagal neck snap was enough to take care of business.
Yeah,
but
when they had this long, drawn-out fight prior to that, and...
But bullets won't work. Although bullets don't ever really work that well in this book, if I'm being honest with you.
Nope.
Like, they shoot a whole lot of them, but they don't seem to do that much. Anyway, Owen's recovering from his werewolf attack when he gets visited by both the MCB and the leader of MHI, Earl Harbinger.
Yeah, like, oh my god, really?
Yeah, of course, you know, that's a tough guy name, right?
Earl.
So,
just a Harbinger, like...
Yeah, and Earl is like, you know, he's got a fucking big mustache, he's smoking a cigar all the time, he's rough around the edges as any big tough guy would be.
Oh no, you're thinking of the boss. The boss is always smoking a cigar and has a hook for a hand. Earl is always smoking cigarettes and looks a lot younger than he really is.
Oh, okay, anyway.
Yeah.
So he gets offered... The government is like, well, we need to make sure that you're not a werewolf and that you're not going to turn, and if you are, we're going to shoot you in the fucking head. And
which I'm fine with. Like, I think that whole, like, okay, him beating the werewolf is kind of unbelievable, but, like, some of the stuff in the book is kind of cool, and, like, I was kind of fine with the story arc at the beginning, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it starts off like, Larry can write reasonably well.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
The grammar is mostly fine, and, like, there's some structure here, and, like, there's good story beats and stuff like that, but it's always, like, the dialogue and the characters that fall flat. Anyway, what are we doing? Yeah, we're there in the hospital room where Pitt is recovering, and the MCB is just kind of, like, hanging out next to him and trying to see if he's going to turn or not, and if he doesn't turn, then they're going to leave him alone, but he has to keep really hush-hush quiet about it. Please, guy, don't tell anyone about the werewolves, or we'll come and shoot you. Which begins one of my first major problems with this book, is that, like, there's a lot of people that just seem to know about the existence of monsters, but don't say shit, and, like...
Yeah, it
seems like an unbelievable amount of people have been able to keep this quiet.
Yeah, I feel the same way, where there's a ton of people who have been attacked by monsters and survived, or who have just been in the vicinity of a monster event, and it's like, how the fuck is all this stuff happening all the time? That would be like, for example, it would be like if in 9 states all at the same time there were little bands of military units shooting and killing someone, and it wasn't on the news ever.
Yeah, and
like,
also,
what?
Because, like, the only threat is, like, oh, we'll kill you if you mention it to anyone, but, like, a whole lot of people see monsters, and the government is just kind of okay with that, so at some point, it's mostly just gonna be, like, everyone knows, but they're not talking about it.
Yeah, which I also find that unbelievable.
So monsters have become something, like, just, like, you don't talk about in polite conversation, like pooping, or sex, or something, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, because it would be one thing if the monster events were few and far in between, you know, because at first I was like, okay, well, if something like this only happens twice a year in an isolated incident, like, okay, it's a little more believable. But as the book goes on, they start talking about how there's like all the Monster Hunter units are all busy all the time.
Yeah,
because
like
there's always shit going on everywhere, and it's just
there's like 12 different squads or something, and like they're all out on missions all across the United States, sometimes even internationally.
And the world, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like all taking care of business all the time, and it's like you can't isolate that many fucking incidents. And also, we're just talking about like the U.S.'s policy on monster hunting. What about like the rest of the world? I'm sure some government somewhere is like, oh, you don't give a shit. Tell everybody what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
So that just seems like roundly unbelievable based on the frequency and quantity of monster-related events.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
They don't even have like a Men in Black style like memory wiper. They're just like, just don't do it. This is like, just don't do it.
Yeah, or we'll kill you. It's like, okay, and then anyway.
So does that mean like if I make up a story about a vampire that visited me, like the government might show up and shoot me in the face? Like,
yeah, I guess. Well, they would know what's real and what's not, I suppose.
You would think.
Yeah. So anyway, they wait around to see if he turns, and then Monster Hunter International shows up and wants to offer him a job because very few civilians survive a werewolf attack. And the lady, so it's Earl Harbinger and Julie Shackelford. Julie is the granddaughter of the big boss right now, and the big boss of Monster Hunter International, and Owen immediately falls in love with her because she's...
At first sight, because she's a very pretty lady.
And she has dark black hair.
She has a gun.
Dark black hair.
And she likes guns. Like, that's all it really comes down to for him.
And doesn't he talk about how great her boobs are?
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times. He seems to be a very bust-oriented guy. And but he brings up, like, how beautiful and her physical features, like, every fucking time that he looks at Julie. He's like, oh, by the way, did you know she's, like, incredibly pretty? She's a complete 100% gorgeous angel that is the woman of my dreams. Oh, my God, Julie.
Yep. And, of course, she's already dating someone, so...
But he's a douche, so it's fine.
Yeah. So he asked her to stay for pizza or something... And she obliges, and, come to find out it's only because she's waiting to see if he turns, because it's a full moon.
He's home by now. Like, they've already let him out of the hospital.
Yeah, they left. Yeah.
So they show up at his door, and, like, he's like, well, why don't you stay for pizza, Julie? And, like, she does. So... Yeah,
because she has to see if he's a werewolf or not. But he doesn't know that. He thinks, like, oh, I'm real smooth, and turns out, no. But, well, Chris, you wanted to talk about how unrealistic the relationship building is in this with Owen and Julie.
There's no good reason for anything that happens. Like, at the end of this thing, Julie kisses him on the cheek.
Yeah, at the end of their...
such a sweet guy or something.
At the end of their pizza eating session, and he doesn't turn into a werewolf, so she, kisses him on the cheek, and I'm like, dude, no woman who is in a committed relationship is gonna, like... caress someone's face and kiss them on the cheek, like,
after like knowing them for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, it was real weird. And
I guess even if like you serially cheat on your boyfriend or something, you're not gonna just like lead the dude on. Like, you would at least go for the dick at that point if you're that type of lady, right?
I don't know. Yeah, it seemed pretty unbelievable to me.
There's really like not any in between where a lady's gonna be like, well, I'll just give this guy a nice sweet peck on the cheek for being just such a nice guy by ordering me pizza.
Yeah,
that's all he's done. He took a job interview from her and they ate pizza together. That's it.
Yep, but man, you just gotta kiss those cheeks.
That's how you impress the ladies.
Yeah.
Order them up a sausage and pepperoni pizza, and they'll just have to be, they've been wooed.
So he gets fired from being an accountant because he brought a gun to work.
Well, I mean, that's a valid reason to be fired, I guess.
Yeah. But, so anyway, he decides to take the job, and he starts working with Monster Hunter International, and he joins the newest group of newbie recruits. They go to the headquarters compound is that in Alabama? I feel like it is. Yeah,
pretty much the rest of the book is in the Alabama area.
Yeah, and so they're training and whatever, and he's meeting the other... he's meeting the fucking stereotype A-team, if you want to talk about that.
There's Token Black Friend.
Yep.
Triple J, who was like kind of nerdy supposedly, but then there's the actual nerd, the Asian librarian, of course. There is the lady of the squad, who is of course a former stripper and super hot.
Holly Newcastle.
And then there was one more, right?
There were a couple more. There was like the country guy. He's the only person that dies in the end. Chad or
Chuck, I think.
Chuck. I don't know, man. Some fucking
but pretty much
character.
like the squad is Triple J, Holly, the newcomer, and Albert, the Asian librarian.
Albert Lee.
Yes.
And then there's their teachers. So Earl Harbinger, Milo, Grant, who is Julie's boyfriend.
And he's such a rich guy, asshole, like the stereotype. So basically, like, imagine every like douchey jock rich kid stereotype you've ever seen in a movie, and like just plop it right in this character, and like you've encompassed the entire character.
Yeah, and he talks about how he's a rich New Englander Yankee. Like the whole book is it's got a bit of a libertarian slant. It's got a bit of a Southern pride slant. So. Yeah, he trashes him for being a New Englander, and it's like, okay.
And Grant, like, he only does, like, one thing that's, like, not even really that bad to, like, but that's, like, the characterization of him as, like, a jerk, and, like, the justification for it is when they go on a mission, which is, like, the next thing that happens after Pitts impresses everyone with his shooting abilities at training, and we get introduced to all the newbies.
Oh, and he goes on a magical out-of-body experience journey with his, I don't know, broken English Jewish tour guide of the astral plane.
It's a Polish ghost, Paris.
Yes.
Yeah. So like he starts having like these weird dreams where he like talks to this Polish ghost that he meets in like a churchyard, and like the ghost starts saying all cryptic things like, "Oh, just you wait and see, some bad things coming. Have a kielbasa.
I help you. I give you dreidel." That actually happens. He actually gives him magical dreidels, guys. It happens.
Yeah. So he has like an out-of-body experience, and like he hears all the senior members of Monster Hunter planning like a mission on this boat that has been taken over by vampires, possibly.
Yeah, and he has a dream about it the night before as part of this like out-of-body experience thing. It's like, and he sees them land. He sees the vampires like leave the main boat and take a little what is that called? Like a lifeboat or something?
Yeah, just a small,
the smaller like lifeboat or dinghy or whatever, and they take it out to the mainland, and it has the boat name on it and the Antoine Henry and he's
so
like,
it's in France, of course.
And there's all these vampires. There's 7 master vampires, and this gross thing with them, with gross flying monsters, and the gross thing is like the big bad guy, and his name is Lord Machado.
Yeah,
which
Lord Hatchet.
I don't know if it's funny because I grew up amongst all Portuguese people as a kid, and I just knew a bunch of people with the last name Machado, so it wasn't like impressive to me. It was just funny because I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I know that's kind of weird, but it was just, it's almost like saying, Lord Smith, like it's not very...
Little aside, during this out-of-body experiences, the author makes sure that Pitt sort of out-of-bodies over Holly's bunk and catches that she sleeps in the nude, and he's like, nice, and he notes that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool.
Unsurprising that the stripper sleeps in the nude. Nice. Like, oh, you're the
I think he
so
literally
gross.
says nice too, like
or something. Yeah, I don't know if he does, but it's understood that is the situation.
Larry just had to slip that in there, like, oh yeah, this lady's like really one of those.
And Larry Correia is his Portuguese name too, so I kind of feel like he was just like, yeah, being Portuguese, fuck cool. I don't know.
So the newbie squad goes on their first mission, and Pitt is kind of like put in charge of sort of like the back end, like cover their asses, which is what the newbies are doing, while Earl's main squad and a couple other guys
and the French team.
Yeah, there's a French team that's also like handling the thing, and they're going in to handle the vampire. Like the French team is actually cornered and trapped, and like that's why Monster Hunter International is being sent in, is to like take the rest of the master vampires out, or the vampires. I don't think they even know there's masters.
They don't believe, because Owen starts telling them about his dream, and they're like, "Fuck you, masters don't work together. That's not real." And then of course they find out that it is true. They go through this mission. Grant, Julie's asshole boyfriend, kind of condemns Owen to die because he like shuts a door on him intentionally because he didn't think that like he and Owen could beat the guy, so he was like, fuck it, and shut the door, which is a super asshole thing to do, but
Sure, but like I think it was also reasonable that Owen might not make it out, and that like he would just like hold them back or something. So it's not totally an asshole.
Well,
thing to do.
it's an asshole thing to do considering he could have pulled him up and then shut the door, but he just shut the door and said fuck it and like left him to die. But of course he doesn't die. He survives this crazy encounter with a vampire, and oh, by the way, this book may as well be called Deus Ex Machina because that is all that happens throughout this entire book.
That's
just
the only way. Like
shit just gets solved out of nowhere all the time.
It turns out the French squad's leader got turned into a vampire, and like he's all like, "Oh, actually, it's really rad being a vampire, so I'm on their side now." And he gets in a standoff with Pitt. Like the rest of the newbie squad runs away. They encounter like a regular newly turned vampire in the halls, and that thing takes like hundreds of bullets without flinching at all.
Yeah, that thing was really hard to kill because a master vampire had turned it. So in this world, if something really powerful creates you, then the creation is also really powerful. Which fine, I can buy that. That's okay.
But it literally soaks up like hundreds of bullets,
yeah,
and I think explosives even, without really getting that much slowed down at all.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, the only way to really kill a vampire, and the only way to really kill a lot of things that they fight, is to sever, the spinal cord, so to cut the head off.
I think the stake in the heart still works for vampires to, like, slow them down.
Yeah, so they stake the heart to get them to pass out, kind of, and then they can cut their heads off. That's their method. So Owen saves everybody, because initially they're fucked, and then he like, fakes out the vampire.
He also, at this point, he does like one of the most incredible physical feats ever, which is like he's like carrying someone up the ladder too, I think. Like there's a ladder out of a hatch or something. He's like hanging by one arm. He's not carrying the ladder.
He's not carrying anyone there, but he does carry Julie like that at some point later in the book. But he's carrying his own 300-pound plus brutalized body up a ladder
with like all the gear that's because they bring like ass loads of bullets and grenades.
Ass loads of gear, yeah.
And he's like climbing it like one-handed and one-legged while like firing at the newly turned French vampire guy, which is like ludicrous.
yeah, it's really, and the whole time the character like Owen's talking about how, oh man, this is so hard, I'm so out of shape, but I'm doing these masterful feats of physical endurance. Like
if you're out of shape, like you have no hope of climbing a fucking ladder one-handed with all that gear on you and shooting accurately.
Yeah.
Like, not happening.
No. And so he fakes out the vampire to save everybody else by pulling a pin on a smoke bomb, and the monster is, like, the vampire is stupid enough to think it's a grenade, but if that vampire used to be the head of the French team, he would fucking know that that's not a grenade and it's a smoke bomb.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they look pretty different.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, that would be reasonable if it was just a regular-ass vampire, but it was the guy who ran the French team. He knows what a smoke bomb and a grenade looks like. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So everybody, he basically sacrificed himself for everybody else, and then, Grant comes by, says, fuck it, and shuts him in with the vampire to save himself, and then, out of nowhere, fucking Earl Harbinger comes in and is like, it's cool, Owen, I got this, and, like, sends Owen away, and then he takes out the dude.
Mysteriously, like, you don't really see how, it's just, like, Earl shows up, like, 5 minutes later, like, I did it, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's pretty weird, and
anyway, that's like the first mission. I think like the Asian dude is injured a little bit. Like he's the only one that actually gets hurt at all. Like he's gets stabbed through the leg or something. Everyone else is a-okay. Holly was like firing rocket launchers at like stragglers or something.
Yeah, Holly was outside firing. She was firing at all the like the newly turned sailors who weren't as powerful, I guess, and it was.
I think Julie was actually with Owen, like on his squad. Like she.
They were all together. I don't know, and then eventually
that's why he witnesses her like shooting prowess, and he's like, "Oh my god, she's the perfect woman."
Yeah, he basically like comes in his suit when she shoots something, and so that's their first mission, and then
while we're talking about coming in suits over like missions like that, because like the description level of guns and the detail level that goes into like how things are shot at is like almost pornographic. Like we're getting like exact model numbers and like customization details. It's almost like this one scene in Metal Gear Solid 3 where Snake like jizzes in his pants over like a really nice handgun or something. Like
Yeah,
imagine that,
I mean,
but for a whole entire book.
uh,
I guess because Larry was a gun salesman at one point, so he would like know all these details. But at one point, it feels just like an ad for his gun store.
well, he no longer has the gun store. He sold out of the gun store. He's also he's apparently like an expert marksman and a teacher. I think I don't know. I mean, I read his autobiography. I think he said he writes full time now. Oh, and he works for a military contractor doing accounting. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, naturally. So, yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, I think in some ways, you know, as a person who doesn't know a lot about guns, it is cool to learn something new, right? About something you're unfamiliar with. But, I mean, honestly, I feel like he just throws model numbers and bullet types and names at you, and you don't really remember it. It's just
you didn't really learn much about how to operate a gun or like all the different parts of it. You just kind of learn like names of types of guns and types of calibers of bullet, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I also don't really know the difference between all these guns. Like, sometimes he goes into detail about like, oh, it's an automatic blah blah blah, but sometimes he's like, blah blah blah, the 1911 blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. All right, whatever.
Yeah, like you would have to like a 1911's a type of pistol, like
yeah.
So that's like that just comes from me like playing a shooting game on my computer once in a while. That's about as far as I go.
Yeah,
on knowledge.
so a lot of there is a lot of detail about the guns. And you know, everyone always has RPGs on them all the time. Like they're always just rocket launching.
I mean, everyone's like super kitted out because this is like super tactical squad based stuff. And like during that first mission, I was actually kind of into it because I've been playing a lot of this game XCOM that is kind of like this strategic tactical shootery thing. So I was kind of down with that. But then it quickly becomes just like action movie style nonsense where there's a million bullets flying around at all times. Like literally, perhaps millions of bullets are fired in this book.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate actiony parts. I actually kind of like reading stuff like that, but it gets, like I said, because there's never any real danger for the characters because they just keep getting saved by all these weird, you know, out of the heavens things that happen. It's not that entertaining because you never feel like anything is at risk, and also, like you said, everyone is just a stereotype that you've encountered before, you know. So
like there's no life to anything. Like there's not much originality. There's like one little pinpoint of originality that we might get to in a second, but let's keep trucking along with the plot here. So like after the first mission, everyone starts believing Pitt that like he has these dreams and psychic visions because it turns out there was master vampires on there, and so they start like really diving into his, I guess, what he's learning through the Polish ghost in pieces because, you know, ghost law is that you can't be direct with anyone. You have to be cryptic and like lead people on very slowly.
Yeah, right. Which again, what the fuck is that about? Why is that always a thing?
The Polish ghost is connected to Lord Machado, and because the ghost is also connected to Pitt, Pitt is also connected to Machado through the transitive property of ghostiness.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
So,
well, and because he's the chosen one, right?
Yeah, so he can like look into Machado's memories of when Machado was like a conquistador that came to like early Mexico or Texas area, I guess, and was entranced by some kind of weird priestess in some Mayan or Aztec town, something like that. They
said that it was neither Mayan nor Incan nor Olmec. It was like some society that everyone had forgotten about, but is suspiciously described in very like Aztecian fashion. So
yeah, that's the vibe that I got for the most part. Anyway, so he sees like Machado as a conquistador who's just like an asshole. Like there's nothing like good at all about Lord Machado. He's just instantly right out of the gate like the evilest person possible. He cuts up women and children because it's fun to conquer things and to oppress peoples and steal their gold and whatnot. So when this weird priestess from this society comes up to him, he's like, I can help you to control everything, my lord.
I can give you all the power of my vagina.
I can give you all the hand jobs that you would like. And he's like, oh, that sounds great to me. Let's see what you got, lady that just walked up to me and offered this. So that's like the first little bit of memory that Pitt gets about this super evil guy that's always been evil all the time, constantly. You know.
Yeah.
a comic book villain, basically. Like, there's never any
comically evil, yeah.
He just wants to kill to be a killer because killing is fun for him.
Well, he wants control over everything, the whole world, dominion over all.
And he does that just through pure violence. Like, there's no subtlety about, like, political maneuvering or anything. He just wants to just kill until he has taken the ultimate seat above everyone.
Yep, and so he goes along with this priestess Correia, I think is her name.
Yeah,
Correia, I don't know. He's in league with her, and they're, she's like, she shows him she takes him down this deep cave and shows him this obelisk.
I bet she took him down a deep cave. I bet she did.
Oh yeah, it's said that they're fucking, clearly. And she's like, oh yeah, we just need this specific sacrifice of this kind, and there's this of course, ancient mystical poem that he feels he fulfills.
Okay, what, they don't really outline exactly what kind of sacrifice they need. They just need some kind of sacrifice. I never really.
They need a hunter sacrifice. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the little poem, the first time you read it, you kind of roll your eyes and go, oh my god, it's obviously Owen Pitt. Like, it's the main character.
It's written in such a way that, like, oh, it could be Lord Machado because Pitt is named after, like, his dad named him after a type of Australian submachine gun, also called Pitt by brand name.
No, called Owen. And Zastava is a Serbo-Croatian weapons manufacturer. It also means flag in Serbo-Croatian. I don't know. But yeah, he made him Owen Zastava, gun manufacturer Pitt.
Gun McGunner. Gun boy.
Gunny McGunner. Gunny McGun guns.
I meet my beautiful gun son.
Yeah, because apparently the Owen submachine gun was like what kept him alive in the Nam, so named his son that.
I can only love a gun. That's all I know how to do. So if I name my son Gun, then I will maybe love him.
Well, that's the thing. His father was apparently a shithead, and all he did was train Owen for the apocalypse, which, coincidentally, he didn't need to be trained for.
He was always disappointed that his son couldn't fire hot lead out of his mouth. So he never really lived up to the expectations that his father set for him. So
yeah, so his father trained him for
son. I want you to eat this entire clip, and if it's not shooting out of your mouth at 500 miles an hour in 10 minutes, I'm going to disown you.
Yeah,
but Dad, lead is bad for you. Do I care?
Yeah, we don't in this book. We don't get a whole lot of backstory on Owen's dad, but I think in the other books in this series, you do. But anyway, so Machado tries to do this ritual to get all the power from the artifact, which is just like a shard of obsidian that's magical, I think.
I never really nailed down the physical description of it because it was really vague and all around.
Yeah, it was really weird. They just start talking about the artifact, and then somebody's like, oh, it fits in a little box, and you're like, okay, it must be a little shard of something. Yeah, I think it was described as some kind of obsidian shard. Anyway, the ritual goes wrong because there's the Thrall, who is like a Viking who has been cursed to protect the artifact, which also makes no sense.
He was like a sub-general under Machado when they came over as conquistadors, and when he saw Machado getting seduced by the priestess, he was like, oh, I don't like this, and so he follows them down when they're trying to do the ritual for the first time.
Yeah, but he's also like a Viking. He's also Scandinavian, which makes
but he talks
no
in
sense.
Old English. He's like thou and thy and sir.
Yeah, but if you read the details, he talks about how he talks about Valhalla and shit, and see you in Valhalla. May you live eternally in the halls of the Valkyries or something.
So he's
and I'm
some
just like,
kind
what?
Of Spanish Viking conquistador lieutenant Englishman.
Yeah, I don't understand how a Viking, a Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, Icelandic, whatever
at one point,
Viking.
there was definitely. I mean, the Vikings took over England at one point, so that's how you got Anglo-Saxons, and so there was some of that. But also, he's a Spanish conquistador or a Portuguese conquistador.
Well, no, but I just don't think there's any historical record of Vikings working with conquistadors in Central America. What?
I don't think I'm
I'm not an expert, but
Yeah, please send in your comments if you know a specific instance of that, because that would be kind of rad. But I don't
Well,
remember
the Viking
that
Age also existed, like, well before the Age of the Conquistadors. So, like, I don't... Oh, God,
yeah, the
I don't
timeline
fucking
is
know.
also all wrong, because, like, this is, like, 500 years ago or something, and, like...
Yeah, everything happens in 500-year increments with this, like, weird curse shit.
We're well past, like, the Norman invasion of England by the time we're into, like, the 1600s and stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, so you know how we're talking about this Lord Machado shit? You know how we haven't really talked about those vampires from the beginning? Yeah, that's because we can't reconcile how they team up with this dude.
Yeah, there's never really, like,
No
they're
idea.
just there with him, and they decided to work together because Lord Machado is the ultimate evil bad guy, so all the Master Vampires are required to work for him for reasons?
Yeah, it doesn't really make it, like, they're not required to, but if they do, he promises them, you know, eternal power in his eternal evil kingdom, but it doesn't make any sense, like...
Why would not one Master Vampire just go for that on his or her own?
Right, and why would they do that? Because vampires need humans to survive, whereas Lord Machado is just like this weird puddle of black ichor that just inhabits his old suit of armor, so he doesn't require any physical sustenance, but vampires do. So why would you want to destroy the world that includes your food source? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Yep.
Well, they're all evil, so they're gonna all team up to do evil stuff.
Oh, and it gets better. So Julie, Owen's fucking, you know, perfect woman, her mom and dad become vampires.
That's by, like, the end of the book. So,
Yeah.
like, let's go across to this, like, subplot here where, like,
God.
Julie is, like, missing both of her parents because supposedly her mom died a long time ago, and her dad unleashed, like, the first instance of, like, a portal to hell because he was, like, doing weird experiments. Her dad was part of Monster Hunter.
It was more like a portal to, like, the realm of eldritch horrors, less than hell.
So, like, here's the thing. I'm like, so her dad was part of Monster Hunter International, and he's like, my wife died. She must have gone to the eldritch realm, so I'll open a portal to there and go in there randomly and try to find her.
Yeah, I think he was trying to open a portal to the underworld, but accidentally, like, fucked it up and opened a portal to that shit, which was, like, way scarier.
But why would you immediately... Because, like, at first, like, it's presented as, like, oh, I thought the mom was dead.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Like, there was a body that they found or something. So he's like, well, I guess I'll just go find her in hell? Like, he assumes she went to hell, like, right out the gate. Like,
yeah, it's pretty weird, and I also just don't understand... And, you know, and yeah, because they talk about her as, you know, they talk about her going missing. They never say that she's dead. They just assume she is. And the first time I read that, I was like,
obviously she went to the demon realm. Like, that's obviously where she went.
Yeah, and it's funny because the first time I read that, I went, oh, she's obviously not dead. Like, she's going to reappear somehow.
Sure, but, like, it was just super sloppily done. Like, like, her dad trying to look for her in that way makes zero fucking sense to me. Anyway, she appears later on, like, I think briefly after the part we were describing, like, after this one mission, they go to, like, some, like, Pitt and Harbinger go to, like, some doctor's island who, like, studied places of power so they can figure out where this artifact, because, like, the artifact
that's where the French boat landed, and they found it, and they were like, oh, why did they land here? And, oh, it turns out they murdered a doctor and his wife because they had information about it, like...
But why would they murder the doctor and his wife if the doctor was like... So apparently Lord Machado went to the doctor to find information on a place of power, but he just fucking kills him with, like...
Yeah.
Don't you want to keep that guy around to, like, do some research for you or something?
Yeah, and so then the Master Vampires and Machado just start targeting our anthropology professors, which, like, okay, dude, because that's what the doctor was, the first guy. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, doesn't make any sense. And you know,
why
it's
would
like,
an anthropologist know about places of magical power? I don't know.
Oh, well, that's just something you study as an anthropologist. Like, there are plenty of anthropologists who study you know, magic and witchcraft, and I mean, that's a basic tenet of anthropology, so he didn't get that wrong. But
all right, sure, I'll take you.
Yeah, I mean, as a person who studied in the field, I know I'm not an expert, I don't have a doctorate, but, like...
I'll ask my girlfriend with her undergrad anthropology degree if she studied witchcraft.
Well, I mean, I also have an undergrad anthropology degree, and yeah, studying death and witchcraft and all that shit is, it's a road you can go down.
Yeah, that's reasonable, like human ritual and, like, belief systems.
Right, yeah, it's actually a pretty big part of it, so that makes sense, but, Yeah, the whole... So, okay, again...
But why would he murder the doctor and, like, not, like, at least keep him around to, like, suggest more places or something?
Yeah, and it's weird that, in the book, you know, these vampires and Lord Machado are, like, fucking all-knowing, super fast, superhuman, cool, but, like, they can't do research? They can't, like, go to a library? Like, no... That's beyond the scope of their abilities. And some of them have been alive for fucking decades, and they didn't go to the library? Like, what? I don't get it.
I mean, everyone knows vampires can't read.
Right? Yeah, they're illiterate.
You lose your ability to read when you become a vampire. It's like one of the things they don't like to talk about a whole lot. It's like a taboo.
Yeah, I mean, and again, there's really no clear... Yeah, it doesn't really make sense why the vampires would want to completely destroy their food source to have total power, because then they wouldn't be able to survive, so it doesn't really make sense.
All of the villains' motivations in this book make absolutely zero fucking sense, like, unless you're just keeping it down to, like, well, they're evil people, so they want to destroy all existence.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, this book is written for... gun nuts on the internet who like action. That's what the author said. So.
And so, you know, a monster is a legitimate thing to fire a gun at. Finally, I can fire all of my guns at something.
Yeah. And it's weird because the author constantly talks about how Owen isn't smart. He's a big dumb guy. He's a big dumb stupid oaf. But it's like that doesn't make sense. If he has a black belt in 2 martial arts. He's an accountant who passed the CPA exam the first time.
Polyglot of 5 languages.
Polyglot, knowing 5 languages. He's, skilled in all this combat. Like, he's obviously not stupid. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but he's always throwing that in there.
But that doesn't fit the big, dumb, oaf, strong man, sensitive guy stereotype. Well, he's not really a sensitive guy. He's an aggressive guy, but...
Yeah.
Again, everything's just a walking cliche. Anyway, after this like little encounter, I think that the next beat is probably when Julie's mom, the master vampire, attacks Owen and like the newbie squad and some other people who are like somewhere. They're not at the compound. They're like somewhere else.
They're at Julie's, the Shackleford family home.
Oh yeah, so like the mom actually comes back, and like the way she decides to begin her attack is by trying to fuck Owen.
Yeah, because she tries to pretend that she's Julie, and he almost falls for it, which is hilarious, because her and her mom look very similar.
And it was like in the dark or something, but like, why would a master vampire who's going there to like kill up and murder a bunch of people be like, you know what, I'm gonna get some dick real quick while I'm starting here or something?
Yeah, it's this problem in movies and books where all these fabulously powerful monsters who could murder anybody at a moment's notice just don't. Like, they just don't do it. They're bumbling, or they just decide not to. They
don't want to like toy with their food first by sucking his dick for a little while.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You really want to get the flavor out, you know, like you can't really experience all.
Yeah, gotta salt that meat, right? So yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I can't really blame Larry Correia, because this is something that happens, like I said, in just about every story where, you know, the main characters conveniently survive and are never really killed, but the monsters have no problem killing off side characters with literally a flick of the wrist sometimes, you know?
Yeah, without barely flinching at all.
Yeah, and that trope persists in these books. But, you know.
Julie's mom attacks, and she takes like 100,000 bullets to her face.
Oh, but those magic dreidels do her in.
Yeah, Pitt throws a magic dreidel at her, which burns her really good or something.
I just can't believe that's another thing where like
all the matzo ball magic packed into that dreidel.
The Jewish ghost guy, who is like a very likable character. He's cool, whatever. But yeah, he whittles things when he meets up with Owen in their weird astral projection dreams, and whittles these little dreidels and gives them to Owen, and somehow they cross over from the astral plane to the physical because Owen puts them in his pocket. And then they're really
effective. There's a bunch of stuff that happens with the ghost, because like he also like saves him from drowning at first in that. Like,
oh my god, scene. I was so mad about that. I was so mad.
You're not establishing any clear rules of like, can the ghost go into reality? Is it just a dream thing? Like,
it's all just when it's convenient. Like I said, it's all Deus Ex Machina shit. Like, yeah,
and also the Polish ghost dies like 4 times. He's like, I can't help you anymore. I have to fade away forever.
Oh wait, I'm back.
And then an hour later, he like pops up in Owen's head again to like help him out of a jam again.
Yeah, it's so the fucking Jewish ghost saves him
I like how you say Jewish ghost and I say Polish ghost. Because
they really harp on the fact that he's Jewish, because once again, you can't have a fantasy monster book without evil Nazis, guys. They made their return. Yep. They're back. Evil Nazis.
They've come back in real life too. Actually, in real life, they've also come back.
Yeah, so, it's true. It's true. I guess I can't malign Correia too much for that, because hey, that's just 2017. Fuck me.
Yeah.
But there's also the really righteous Jewish ghost who is kind of a stereotype character you see in a lot of movies too, where there's like, the forces of good are always represented by a really cool old Jewish guy, like against the Nazis. That's just tale as old as time. Tale as old as 1932 or something.
1940s, about like late 1930s, early 1940s.
Yeah,
World War II.
Yeah. So one of the vampires is an evil Nazi that the Polish Jewish ghost once fought. The Polish Jewish ghost was once the sacrifice.
Polish monster hunter.
He was also a monster hunter, and he was a sacrifice for the last time they tried this shit, which definitely was not 500 years ago. So
like the vampires like mistimed it or something, and it was like the Polish ghost was the sacrifice to like bring Machado back to consciousness or existence, maybe, or something.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it was.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or they, I think they just completely mistimed the ritual, and they're like, "Oh shit, we gotta wait like 60 years. Never mind."
Yeah, and it's like, how did you mistime it if it's every 500 years? Like, it's not hard to do that math. I don't.
And even if they did, like, how, if they just didn't know it was 500 years, how do they know that now is the time to do it?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
So Julie's mom attacks. She gets away, but like they take Grant with them. I believe that's when Grant is absconded with?
Yeah, I think so. And I thought Grant was the leak, but they never actually... There was like an intelligence leak. They knew somebody was leaking information. I fucking thought for sure it was Grant, but then it turns out not to be, but then they don't reveal who it was. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it actually was just the reasoning was just like, oh, Julie's mom was a master vampire, so like she knows all the Monster Hunter shit already or something.
Well, no, because they were getting current information, not like shit that they had just done or decided. It wasn't like, oh, their compound is here.
I don't know where the fuck that plot
it just never got resolved. And like, I don't know, there's a bunch of other battles that happen with monsters, and like
they go to like the mental hospital that Julie's dad is in, and like that's how they bust him out when the gargoyles attack the mental hospital and massacre like a bunch of patients, because it's like a people that have been attacked by monsters mental hospital recovery thing that specializes in that.
Yep.
So there's like a focus group to talking about all their horrible experiences, including like some people that were in some kind of like vampire blood rape pit.
Yeah, which is what Holly also experienced, Holly Newcastle, which is why she doesn't give a fuck.
The vampires will keep you in a pit and only drink so much of your blood so they can keep taking it instead of just having to kill a new victim every like month or so.
Which is, hey, that's very environmentally conscious.
Yeah,
it's very economical.
You want to be green as a vampire.
Yeah, and then they do their part in reusing and recycling by once they're done with a body, they cut it up and they feed it to the people in the pit. So they're
just composting, really.
Yeah, they're really trying to preserve the resources on the earth.
Excuse me, are these humans locally sourced? I'm not going to drink any of this blood that isn't.
I'm sorry. Was that one a stripper? No, I don't eat strippers. I'm sorry.
Did you humanely drain these victims? Because I have kind of a thing against it.
Yeah, that's kind of how. Yeah, it's pretty weird, but I mean, whatever. I don't think that's the worst idea. Let's talk about the thing that's kind of great. So, one of the hilarious, what we think is a pretty original idea in this book
only in like the combination of two things. Like the execution of it is still a stereotype cliche.
Yeah, that's true. So in the book, there's an elf queen. Like elves are real. Also, orcs are real, and they listen to heavy metal exclusively.
Yes.
And they're like small though. They're like short.
But they're like Muslim orcs.
Yeah, they're like tiny Muslim orcs. It's very weird.
Like the helicopter pilot for Monster Hunter International is an orc that like wears a face mask all the time, and he's revealed to be an orc later. He has like a weird halting way of talking. He has multiple wives that wear basically like burqas the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, they wear God, what's the other word for that? I don't know. I can't remember.
It's not the hijab. The hijab is just the regular.
Yeah, that's just the headscarf. But yeah, all the women wear burqas and they have multiple wives, and they live in this little village, but they're all like kind of short. They're not like Lord of the Rings orcs. They're like
stockily built. I wouldn't say like not like like dwarfism level or anything, but
they're shorter,
stockier built. Anyway, there's also elves, and they're redneck trailer park elves.
Yep, and it's hilarious. They go to see the Elf Queen, and when I was reading this, one of the things I was doing was reading it aloud to Paul because he thought it was really funny, and so I was reading it aloud, not knowing that the next part coming up was the redneck trailer park elves, so I read everything with the voices, and
oh good,
and it was great.
Some folko live in River Run, but then again, some folko like Ron, the pointy-eared Yoko.
There you go. Yeah. So like, it's funny, but it's also sad because I don't
like it's just
I don't
trailer
wanna,
park stereotypes.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't want
the one elf is like skinny and like junky looking, and he lives in like a piss stained trailer with like an old couch on the outside. He takes cheap beer as payment. The elf queen is like 500 pounds and like absurdly obese, and they all talk like, "Hey, y'all come back now and fight that monster. You're here." Like,
yeah, the elf queen says y'all and them's a lot.
So it's just like an example of every character in this book being just like a walking cardboard stereotype that you've seen 100 times before. The redneck trailer elves would have been a cool idea if they were just they happen to live in a trailer park and they were a little rednecky, but not so over the fucking top extreme redneck that like it just reads like pulpy trash, honestly.
Yeah, it's not good, and the elves and the orcs have a truce where they're not allowed to be on each other's land. And yeah, I don't know, that was kind of silly and entertaining for a minute.
But that was like the one spark of like maybe an original idea, but not quite all the way.
Yeah, so. And then, I don't know, then they get to the final battle sequences where they get tricked into almost all dying because Julie's dad gets vampire mind raped by his vampire wife, and he's so in love with her that he'll do anything she wants as a vampire. She turns him, but nobody realizes he gets turned until, it's way too late. They all think he's dead. And he tells them, like, oh, you have to go to the Natchy Bottom? Like, is that even a place? I need to Google
Probably
this.
not. It's just like an unnamed southern swampland somewhere in Alabama that is like supposedly extra rife with otherworldly, like it's probably one of the places of power, or it's suspected to be, rather. And Julie's dad says like, oh, you have to go there if you want to stop this ritual. You better go there to stop the master vampires. But it's just leading the entirety basically of Monster Hunter International into a trap where they're attacked by the same horrible demon roach things that came out of the rift that Julie's dad opened up when he was originally looking for Julie's mom in hell or whatever.
Yeah.
The same monsters attack them, and they're like lightning quick, and they stab people through the heart. And like literally everyone dies, actually. Like every character in the book dies until Pitt has an out-of-body experience, and like the Polish ghost leads him to a memory of the artifact, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And he can reach out and touch it with his mind, and he resets time back 5 minutes.
Yeah, so they all die horrifically in this, like, people get their throats slit, they get fucking, mutilated with, spears or talons that these weird, otherworldly bugs have, and then he just conveniently resets time, because So in this scene, just like when he almost drowned in the beginning, I'm like, oh shit, they're really gonna kill somebody. Like, all these people are really dead. Oh shit, yeah, all right. I have a little respect for this book now. And then he just resets time with his mind.
For reasons. Again, it's never clearly explained, like, exactly the mechanic. Like, it's really just like, I thought about resetting time near the artifact, and then it worked. Also, the entire world experiences this 5-minute, like, reset, and, like, everyone's like going crazy about it and like reporting it on the news. So I guess that whole monster thing keeping hush hush isn't really working out anymore.
Well, I mean, except nobody really knows why. They wouldn't connect it to monsters necessarily. But it is weird that the whole world noticed it, except for people in time zones who were asleep. Like, they didn't. But anybody who was in a time zone, like, you know, the whole United States, basically, experienced it. But then, like, eventually the hype dies down in the media. I don't know.
Everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. I guess it's fine. We're still here. It's fine.
So you know, when the author's like, oh, I don't like, he's not perfect. I don't treat him good. It's like, you did make a perfect character, and yes, you do treat him quote unquote good.
You literally reset time just so.
Yeah, and you literally sent a ghost to hit the button on his life vest so he didn't drown in like the first mission. You also have a ghost give him magic dreidels, and like, yeah, it's you know, he gets the girl in the end because here's the other like unrealistic relationship thing. So remember how at the beginning we were talking about how Julie gives him a kiss on the cheek mysteriously, and so her fucking boyfriend Grant disappears, like gets kidnapped by vampires, and like within a few hours she's already having an affair with Pitt.
Yeah, she's like on his dick immediately. Like,
yeah.
She doesn't give a fuck about that dude. Like she tries to present it as like, oh, I care about Grant, he's my boyfriend, but like the second he's fucking gone, like she forgets about him almost entirely. She doesn't even like mention feeling guilty about it or anything.
She does briefly. There's like one or two short conversations they have where she's like, oh, I know, it just doesn't, I know, but I've always like, and then she says later like, I've always known that you were the one for me from the first time I met you. I love you, blah, blah, blah. And what? Like...
Look, you know the real reason here. It's because Pitt is such a superior masculine specimen that she just has... Like, everyone knows that if a woman lays eyes on a hot enough dude that they just have to give up what they have now...
Yeah, and also everyone...
the possibly the strongest man ever, because that's immediately all the relationship you've built in the past year or whatever with this person is out the window just because you saw someone cuter or something.
Yeah, and also
stronger or what have you.
Everyone knows how flighty and flaky women are. Like, the second you're out of the picture for 12 hours, she's going to jump on a new dick. Like, that's not how people are.
That's why you gotta stalk her all the time, check her messages, check her phone all the time to make sure she's not cheating.
I mean, sure, some people are shitheads, and regardless of gender, and they're gonna do things like that. But
that's not how a person would behave if they were just like, if your boyfriend has gotten kidnapped, like he didn't break up with you or like treat you like an asshole. He was kidnapped by a fucking vampire or something.
Yep.
And you're like, oh shit, I don't feel bad about that because
yeah. And I don't know. I mean. And that, you know, while I did just say, like, doesn't make any sense, there are some reasons to believe that might be something someone would do in that situation, considering they all think the world is going to end in a couple days. So maybe she's just like, fuck it. I want to have some hot, steamy love the last 3 days I'm alive. And so in that setting, I can kind of, maybe.
But that's totally not the reason she gets. She doesn't, like, use that as like, oh, well, the world's going to end, baby. Let's just get it on.
No, she doesn't, but I'm saying... My interpretation of it, you know, is that...
Your headcanon for this.
Yeah.
But, like, also, I will say mercifully, like, I was totally expecting there to be, like, a fucking...
Oh, my God.
Sex scene.
I know, I was so happy. Thank you.
Mercifully, she just, like, drags him into, like, a side room before they go out on their final mission.
And it just fades to black, and... But, like, dude, Larry Correia, thank you. Thank you for not writing a sex scene into this book.
I will extend my gratitude for that.
And I think, is it because he's a Mormon? I feel like that's why.
He just doesn't know how it works.
No, I mean, he has 4 kids. I'm sure he knows how to fuck. But, like,
maybe because they weren't married, they just soaked for a while.
Oh, why? Oh, God. Oh, I just hate that concept. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think you clipped your mic real good with that.
I'm sorry. Oh, just the... okay, well,
go ahead. If you don't know what that is, go ahead and Google that. We're not going to get into it here.
Oh, yeah. Anyway,
just type the words Mormon soaking.
No, don't, because then you're going to be on a list. You're going to be on a list. I think it might be because of his faith that he doesn't go into that kind of detail, and am I happy about that. So, even though the main character isn't Mormon like the author, Mormonism does kill a vampire, right?
I think it just slows a vampire down because, like, while they're heading to, like, after this Natchy Bottom thing, they've, like, I found out where Lord Machado really is and where the master vampires really are. So, like, the MCB and MHI all go to this one spot and surround them, and they start getting into a fight with the master vampires.
Yep.
And they pour, like, thousands and thousands of bullets and explosives into, like, these vampires, and it doesn't do shit to them.
Yeah.
So, like, if it's not going to work, why'd you bother bringing that shit? Like, it doesn't do anything. A van explodes over a fucking master vampire, and, like, it's still alive.
Yeah, and then the military almost nuked the whole area just to deal with it. But then they didn't.
If a fucking, I don't even know if that would work if just thousands, like, literally, like, every single fucking bullet from every angle possible was thrown at these vampires, and they're just still coming at all the fucking military or Monster Hunter International people. So I don't understand why you would even bring out all these weapons that don't even really fucking work.
Well, I mean, they say that they know that they're not going to kill them. They just need to slow them down and, like, break their bodies down enough that they can stake them and cut their heads off, you know?
But it's like literally like entire regiments are firing at this fucking at these vampires, and like they're not really that slowed down at all. They're still advancing at a fairly rapid rate.
Yeah. So anyway, like I don't even know, how do they even end up winning? I don't remember. It's
because Pitt goes into like the pocket dimension.
Oh yeah, they go into
Lord
the pocket
Machado
dimension.
is in. So there's like a pyramid that they're standing on with the artifact, and Lord Machado, like, reconstitutes Correia because he had, like, her bones from before. She, like, the thrall guy originally killed the priestess, so Machado saved her bones.
Yep, so he could resurrect her.
Them around, like, a bag of bones around with him for, like, 500 years, and he resurrects her in this pocket dimension using part of himself, so she's, like, also just, like, a bubbling mass of ichor and tentacles or some shit.
Yeah, and she slowly starts
But she's totally
form.
In the sexy shape of a lady. She's a sexy blob.
Yeah, he's very clear that she is getting her womanly form back in that blob. Yeah. And yeah, like, fucking big surprise, she turns out to be an evil trickster, like, was super obvious. And I think that's the thing about this book that like, everything's a stereotype. Even the plot is stereotypical. Like, all the evil people are all backstabbing each other all the time, like,
But okay, like, while we're here, like, what was the priestess's plan? Like, so it turns out, like, Pitt is really the chosen one, and, like, the priestess knows that, and he's, like, the true gateway to the elder god dimension to, like, unleash them into the world.
But she is actually an eldritch horror god. She is, like, actually, Tiamat? Or something, right? Yeah, she's like, you puny mortals have worshipped me for thousands of years, like, leaving me little statues, and bleh, I fucking hate this, like, I'm just here to try to find the chosen one so I can bring all my friends, like, what? It just...
Yeah, so as I understand it, her plan was, like, so she knew that Pitt was going to be, like, the real gateway, I think. I don't think when Machado was around that she thought he was going to be the true key. He was actually ended up being, like, the sacrifice needed, because the thrall shows up again in the nick of time for reasons, and he subdues Machado, but turns out that's what the priestess wanted, so she could open the portal using Machado as a sacrifice, with Pitt as the real catalyst.
Yep. So because
why did she bother kidnapping Grant at all? Because Grant was originally in this pocket dimension on the altar as the sacrifice.
Yeah, but she didn't kidnap him. Machado did.
Also, if they needed a hunter for the sacrifice, supposedly Machado's not really a hunter. So what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that whole thing was weird. I mean, yeah, it turns out Correia is actually, like, Tiamat, and she's a servant of the old ones. But it's like, if you have that much power, like, why couldn't you just open the highway to the fucking danger zone? Like, I don't get it.
It has to be a human.
It has to be the chosen one. Like,
with a connection to the artifact that he has because, like, he happens to be the chosen. It's a very circular thing. Like,
yeah, I don't get it.
He doesn't ever really earn anything. He doesn't earn the chosen one status through any hardship. He's just, like, a fucking badass dude from the beginning. And it's not like he develops or changes at all. He doesn't learn a lesson. He just is awesome all the time, and he's been the chosen one. And because he's a good guy, he decides to use the artifact to seal Tiamat away instead of using it to open a portal, like just because he's a decent guy.
Oh yeah, then let's talk about.
So if you're Corinha / Tiamat and you're betting on the chosen one opening the portal, and he has bad intentions to do it, why would you place all your bets on that if he can just decide not to, if he's a good guy?
Yeah, and like, it also... Wait, did you go over how when she was talking to Lord Machado 500 years prior and was like, you are the chosen one, it was because Owen was in his mind reliving the situation, so and she just knew he was there in his mind and was saying that to Pitt?
So she was talking to Pitt really through the Polish ghost... and the Polish ghost was attached to Machado because he was like one of the original hunters of Machado.
No, he wasn't one of the original hunters because he existed in the like 20s and 30s and 40s.
Sure, but like he had a thing against Machado. Like he was like.
Oh yeah, he was studying him. Yeah, that's true.
So I don't understand how the plot comes together like that. Why didn't Correia just wait until Pitt's time? She had to set up Machado as the sacrifice, but why does Machado have to be the sacrifice?
I don't know. I mean, it's not a great...
It's never clearly outlined. None of the mechanics of this final ritual are ever clearly outlined, or the reason behind anyone's plans. Why are the master vampires working with Machado, and like once the priestesses backstab them, why don't they go after the priestess or like join her too?
Yeah, and then,
out of the picture?
Yeah, and then like the ultimate question is, why didn't she just wait another 500 years for Pitt and skip the whole Machado thing? Like, why was that necessary? I mean, she could have just, reincarnated herself as Julie or someone like Julie to get Pitt to fall in love with her and then just have the initial gateway.
Yeah.
Right? Like if she's fucking all-knowing and like...
And she doesn't mind, like, fucking a dude to, like, get him on their side or whatever.
Yeah, it makes no goddamn sense.
By the way, have you ever had Elder God pussy before? Because it is insane, let me tell you. It literally drives you mad.
I've done things that no man should have done.
Her unknowable vaginal walls had strange geometry I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, I got in there, and then, I don't know,
It took a left turn somehow, but also up at the same time, and also I was being penetrated somehow.
Yeah, it's incomprehensible. It's incomprehensible, just like this plot.
Yeah, that's really what this is. Yeah, it's just like, this is the Elder Gods plot to get into our minds.
Yeah,
Through Terrible Book Club, they're going to open a portal into the Netherrealm, and we're all horribly fucked.
Yeah, watch out, guys. Oh yeah, and then let's talk about how he and Julie get saved at the last minute so they're in this pocket dimension, and once he defeats, everybody, the pocket dimension starts crumbling with them in it. And
by the way, he literally just defeats them by just like thinking it or something.
Yeah,
right?
he just makes the choice.
I'm not going to let this happen. The end. So the pocket dimension starts crumbling.
Yep. And so everything dies. Everything's crumbling. He and Julie are in really bad shape. So Julie gets saved. So this is the second time Julie has been killed. And the first time he reversed time to save all of his friends, Julie and himself. This time, Julie is saved by a glorious plot device known as the Thrall's black goo. So,
yeah.
So the Thrall, the weird Viking guy who's the guardian of the artifact, who's supposed to keep it away from the Eldritch gods, or anyone trying to mess with it for evil means. He got the weird black ichor on him like 500 years ago, and it kind of like merged with his physical being as in the form of like a weird tattoo. And then once everyone got beaten, his skin started peeling off with it, and like the black shit went back into the artifact, which is sorry, I just whacked the mic. Which is like a cool visual, whatever, fine.
Sure.
And so it's describing him as all of his skin being torn off, and he's just like eyeballs and muscle tissue and teeth. But then, and he's been dead for pages. For pages, he's been totally gone. And then suddenly, he comes back and smears one little black fucking, it's like he smears a fucking boba like onto Julie's onto Julie's neck, and it heals her wound, and she lives.
Yeah.
Like fuck you. And then they're about to die anyway, and of course somehow the orc pilot, I don't know, like, saves them while they're falling in midair from the pocket dimension.
Yeah.
And they at the last minute, Owen grips the ladder with one hand. This is what you were thinking of. He's holding Julie with one arm, falling from the sky from a pocket dimension, and somehow latches onto this moving ladder on a helicopter with one arm.
It's fine. He's totally fine. He should be fine because, like, throughout the book, how about this is the point we take. We need to describe both all of his injuries and how Mormonism kills a vampire eventually. But right now, all of Owen's injuries, he gets, like, he's roughed up by the werewolf and he's scratched up pretty fucking good. He, like, on the way out of the mental...
it took him weeks to heal from that, right? Weeks.
Yeah, he's attacked during the boat mission by a vampire too. I don't know if he's, like, actually hurt that much. During the escape from the mental hospital with Julie's dad, he literally, like, drags his leg across the road at high speed. So he has, like, extreme road rash on his legs and chest.
And I think it was his arm and I don't know. I think it was his arms, but whatever. And like
he gets shot like once, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but I think he had a Kevlar vest on, so
yeah.
He just got, a little brutalized from that, but. Yeah, I mean, he gets totally destroyed in all these fights, and all of these fights all happen in the span of, what, like a week or something?
A week or two, tops. Like, all, like, from, like, the boat mission to the end of the book is, like, a couple of weeks.
I think it's 1 week.
Yeah, it might be just a single week.
It's like something ridiculous like that, where, I mean, and they kind of, like, Larry kind of, glosses over some of it because the orc pilot's wife is, like, a mystical healer, and helps out with a lot of their injuries by accelerating their healing. But, I mean, it's accelerated, but not like, oh, the next day I'm totally healed. It's like, oh, wow, in a week or two I'll be healed instead of a month. But it just doesn't make any sense that this guy is this fucking tough.
Yeah. It is extreme toughness beyond any action movie I've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking well beyond the Terminator here.
Yeah. All right, so another thing here, let's talk about how Mormonism makes a brief appearance in the book when, during this one, like, final battle scene with one of the master vampires, I believe it's Milo, sort of the Mormon gunsmith character.
Yeah.
Like, they're cornered by a master vampire in a cave, and so he runs up to the vampire and, like, smiles and says, "You gotta have faith," and then a white light engulfs him.
Yeah.
Then, I don't know, like, the rest of the team runs away, and I believe that vampire comes back, like, 30 pages later.
Yeah, it's just all really dumb. And... Because, yeah, in the book, they talk about how religion, like, some of the hunters have faith and some don't. But apparently, if you really believe, you can hurt monsters with your faith, no matter what faith it is. So if you really believe in God, or if you really believe in, I don't know, your pet lizard being the Messiah, like, you can hurt something with that belief, and that's really dumb.
Again, another vague mechanic that never really gets elucidated on clearly at all, that we're just supposed to accept works.
Yeah, and that's why the dreidels work, because they were made with Jewish belief. I don't know. Yeah. It's weird. So something else I want to touch upon, so Owen is described as, like we said, a mutt, and he knows all these languages, and I think his grandparents on his mom's side were, like, Serbian or Croatian or, something. His dad's name is Alhangamea.
Yeah.
I read that and went, what the fuck? You are intentionally being esoteric. Like, what is that? So I had to look it up. So I actually spent a little bit researching what that even means. So Alhangamea the Ava Alhangamea is I'm not really sure how to describe this, a strait in the waters of Tonga.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, it's a Tongan word. That's kind of nuts, like a Polynesian. So his dad is Polynesian, I guess. And it means, Alhangamea means panting to destroy things.
Okay.
And it has become in. This is where I'm getting this information. So I found an academic article in the Jurgen. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm just drinking a coffee now. It's like fucking 5:00. I'm all fucked up. So I'm reading an article in the Journal of the Polynesian Society about linguistic change in Polynesian area, specifically in Tonga, and this person breaks down how Ohanga Mea's present pronunciation means the place where things are destroyed or lost. And it's because the name was given to the strait in Tonga because there's something passed down in oral history in the Tonganese or Tongans. I'm sorry, I'm not really sure which. Where some person in time named I'm gonna butcher this Sisi Mata'alila, something like that,
sure.
Whose carelessness caused the bag of curses to be opened.
Oh no.
While a boat was crossing it, and this caused the loss of lives and every possession, including the boat, and only one person escaped to tell of the fate that had befallen them.
I'm picturing an infomercial. We're like, are you tired of spilling all your curses out of your bag while fording a river? There's gotta be a better way.
Yeah, so
cursed shut.
I don't really know how he came across this because I had to do like 15 to 20 minutes of digging on the internet, which is kind of longer than any other thing I've ever had to research, for like a terrible book.
Sure.
And I had to go dig into an academic journal to find this, so it was kind of weird that he chose this name. I don't know if maybe he just knew about the place name, like the strait in the waters off of Tonga, perhaps.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so his dad's name means like the place where things are destroyed or lost. So I guess that has some significance to the book. Yeah, like
a really weird moment for me too, where I was like, oh, okay, sure, whatever, and like I just kept trekking along with the rest of the nonsense in the book. It was like too minute of a thing for me to like spend too much time on.
Yeah, like Ahanamea, like who is named that? I mean, it seems like it is a name some people have, but it just seems a strange choice, and like also that means that his mom was Serbo-Croatian and his dad was Tongan, so that's fucking weird. I mean,
don't shame people's relation. Like,
I'm not shaming them. I'm just saying it's highly unlikely. I feel like
that's what makes him the chosen one.
Yeah, right?
That's
yeah.
Why, yeah.
Yeah. And of course he just has to choose these like really out of the way ethnicities for this guy to have. Because he can't just be a dude, he has to be a really cool dude. He's like Polynesian and Serbo-Croatian and like
even though
has
he's described as like extremely white dude.
Yeah, and like that, and that's what I was going to talk about next, is how he's supposed to have this very weird background. Turns out he's Tongan and Serbo-Croatian, yet he's this 6'5" white looking dude. Like I don't get it.
Yeah. I
mean, genetics are obviously
100% hard, like this will always happen this way.
Exactly. There's always like for example, I'm a great example of that. I look nothing like my family on either side. So both sides of my family are they're like Mediterranean skin, brown eyes, brown hair, like all the way. No one's even blonde, but I'm red-haired, blue-eyed, pale. Like I don't look anything like them. And that's because I just somehow got all the recessive traits. It happens sometimes.
Sure.
But
yeah, it's really weird. It's just a weird thing that it reads more like just extra cool details for a super cool guy.
Yeah, I guess that's the point I'm getting at, is it doesn't feel like organic, it feels like very forced. Yeah.
Anyway, so we're still kind of at the end here where the pocket dimension is closing. Owen has defeated the evil people.
Back to the book.
With a thought, because he's the chosen one and he can just do that. And then everything wraps up nicely. Julie and him move into her family home. Her mom leaves him a letter that says like, oh yeah, sorry about that whole attack and you guys think we'll leave you alone though. It's so nice to see you, honey.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And then, of course, the ending is Owen has a ring for Julie that she actually found early. So the ending is her going, by the way, Owen?
Yes.
No, thank you.
Sorry, I know it sounds like Chris and I are like 8-year-olds sometimes. It's just because it just the way things happen in these books is just so so unlikely and so annoyingly stereotypical.
But it's just like another cliche, like stereotype, like, oh, at the end, like, he gets the girl and she says yes to marry him. They live happily ever after, blah, 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 blah. Also, Grant, I think Grant just, like, left or something. I don't think he died.
Yeah, like, he doesn't die. He just resigns from Monster Hunter International because
and, like, he has
reasons.
nothing to say about Julie, like, shacking up with his, like, rival, I guess, at that point.
Well, Julie, who is still technically his girlfriend because they never actually broke up.
They have, like, an argument behind a wall one time before he's kidnapped, and that's about it.
Yeah, and they have an argument over him leaving Owen to die, but she kind of, like, forgives him, and he's just like, oh, I made such a mistake, and she's like, yeah, you know, everyone makes mistakes, and, like, that's just kind of how they end it, and then he gets kidnapped, and then they save him from the vampire pit, and that's it. There's never a clean breakup with Grant. And he just resigns.
Like, he just accepts it, I guess. And, like, even though he's, like, a wicked, upfront, douchey guy that will get in your face about shit. Stealing your girl, though, he'll just let that go.
Yeah, when at the beginning of the book, the whole time, he didn't like Owen because he knew that Owen had a crush on Julie and was always up in his shit about it. And they actually got into a fight on the boat after everything was said and done because Owen was like, you fucking left me to die, and, like, pushed him off the boat.
Yeah. But he's just gonna let it slide now, I guess, because, well, everyone knows Owen and Julie were really meant to be because she's the perfect lady and he's a 63-inch massive tit chosen one.
Chosen one.
And that's how the book ends, is that, you know, supposedly they're gonna go on more adventures because there's more books in this fucking series.
I think there's, like, hang on, let me go to the website real quick.
I don't think we really have to know exactly how many books there are because I'm not planning on reading it.
No. I mean, and that said, I kind of feel like if I had picked this up at, like, the age of 12, I would have been like, oh, wow, cool, but it's...
Yeah, like, if you haven't encountered all these samey, like I said, cliches before.
Right.
If it was, like, your first taste of that, it would seem really cool, and Parlez-vous, motherfucker, it might be, like, the right shit in the world.
Oh, yeah, there's 5 books, the last of which was published in 2014. And this is, these are put out by Baen Publishing, Baen. They're a major science fiction publisher, so,
yeah.
You know, it entertains people. People like it because it's entertaining, not because it's good. And
it's definitely pulp thing, and, like, he does say, like, oh, this is influenced by B movies and stuff, but, like, at the same time, like, that doesn't mean you have to just have a completely nonsensical plot.
Yeah, I think that this could have been a good book if like 10 things were changed, so I guess that's kind of a lot.
Basically, if he put more care into writing characters that had some identity and depth to them. Right.
And if he didn't just write in the style that he writes in as himself, it would also be better. This is just a random aside. I was just looking to see how many other books he had written, but he's also featured in We Wish You a Cosmic Christmas, edited by Hank Davis, which is a bunch of sci-fi things that center around Christmas.
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever, guys.
So, I used to think that Baen Publishing, like, when I noticed it was published by Baen, I was like, oh, I feel like I've heard that before. Like, I think Tor Science Fiction is probably the leading publisher, and then you have, like, Penguin that just puts out fucking everything, all kinds of stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I think Baen does have a lot of stuff, but Baen has... Oh my god, they have signed so many authors, like, I don't even know if it's notable to be picked up by them anymore, like...
It probably just means, like, you are good enough to write, like, a vaguely coherent plot that isn't total garbage.
Yeah, they have a lot of people.
Even though, like, when you go
roster.
Through this book, like, nothing mechanically makes sense. It's just, like, if you're on the level of, like, well, just accept that it works, then it kind of works. But even then, so I don't know. Maybe it's just, like, if you can string 800 pages together, they'll publish you.
Yeah, I feel like that is it. They actually have a podcast for their publishing series that's fairly up to date. Looks like they publish, like, every week. They put out a podcast episode.
Maybe we can mine that for some.
Oh my god! Larry Correia recently did Larry Correia on Monster Hunter Series Part 2. He was on April 28th, 2017, April 21st and April 28th, talking about the Monster Hunter series. Fuck! I wish I had known that so we could have listened to it before.
That should have been some supplemental listening. Well, shit.
Jesus. Well, Well, guys, if you're not sick of this glorious book and topic, be sure to check out the author.
Yeah, if we haven't talked your ear off enough already, because this is a fucking lengthy episode, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, sorry, guys.
So, I mean,
no,
I guess,
it's so long. Oh, God,
Yeah.
it's like an hour and 40 minutes. I'm sorry, everyone.
We'll see how this, if we have to chop it up or not. I hope not, but we'll see. So I guess that this is the point where we wrapped up everything. Do you have anything else to cover for this romp through bullets and monsters? So many bullets?
I think that we talked about everything. I guess right now we just need to decide what we're going to read next.
I have no idea right now. So if y'all, once again, if you listeners have suggestions, please comment and send messages or what have you. The more we hear suggestions from you, the better, honestly.
Yeah, and I think I just want to thank Larry Correia one last time for not writing a sex scene into this book.
Okay, yeah,
like,
let's make sure.
I'm sorry, but I know that sounds ridiculous, but we've read so many books with bad sex scenes. I was so glad that there wasn't one.
I was ready for like extended like gun firing metaphors and stuff like
yeah,
that.
like he came inside her like an AR-15. Yeah, that's what I was waiting.
Rapidly.
he unloaded his clip inside. You know, like that's what I was expecting, and it was just really great to not have to go through that.
Yeah. So thank you, Larry.
Yeah,
for that.
thanks. Even though I didn't love this book, and I do think it is kind of terrible. Like, thank you for that. And thank you for at least making some fun to read fight scenes, you know.
Yeah, there was some good action in there.
There was
some good action in there if you like the idea of just millions of bullets flying from all angles at all times. And thank you to the listeners of Terrible Book Club for us. I mean, I'm guessing you sat through most of this. Maybe you're skimming at this rate. But,
for this 1 hour and 45-minute long episode.
Yeah.
I hope you did all your dishes, did all your laundry, cleaned your house.
You should be doing this while you should be listening while you're doing that stuff probably. So if you have an extended cleaning session to do, here we are to talk about the Monster Hunters in Black or whatever the hell.
Yeah, so please, if you've gotten this far, send us suggestions for a new book, although we may just pick one pretty soon because it's
always,
getting on in September. So
the more communication we get out of people, the more, if we can improve the podcast, or if you have suggestions or concerns or something like that, feel free to yak about them at us.
Yeah, and I guess we should probably pick a Halloween-y book for October.
I guess.
The last time we did a book in October, it was Moon People by Dale Courtney, which I recently posted.
Yeah, I have to re-listen to that maybe to see. And I don't remember much from that at all.
You pretended to be a spooky dead ghost throughout the episode, which I had forgotten about. It was funny.
Okay, hilarious.
So
so maybe we'll pick something, I guess, also with monsters in it, maybe. So you'll get a double dose of monsterism.
Yeah. But for now, thank you. If you've actually sat through all of this, thank you. We will try to be a little bit more brief.
We had to sit through all that book, so
It was 713 pages. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's gonna be a long episode when the book is that long.
Sure.
So anyway, thanks guys. We'll catch you in October.
All right. Bye, Barry.
Bye, Chris.